Afternoon, Austin.
Hey, Dad, how are you?
I'm good. We have one of our dear friends and longtime player that was on our team, and I'm excited for him today. So, today our journey takes us across the pond to Frankfurt, Germany, as we look back on one of our favorite memories, the 1998 World Bowl Championship. One of a kind touchdown spike as we look inside the heart and mind of a champion, one of my all time favorite Rhein Fire players. This is a story of perseverance and faith through the eyes of a player and the heart of a coach. My name is Ken Karcher, and I'll be your host. And alongside me today is my son, Austin Karcher. Today, we'd like to welcome Dialleo Burks as our guest to Awaken Kingdom Culture, where hearts and minds come alive, one story at a time. Welcome, Dialleo.
Thanks, Coach. Thanks, Coach. How you and Austin doing today?
We're doing
We're
good.
good. We're good. We're excited to have you. And so let's get right into it, Dialleo, and let's talk about the Burks home when you were growing up in Georgia. And give me one word to describe your home in your childhood times, and then tell us about your family.
I'll say one word to describe us would be hardworking.
Mm.
Hardworking. I grew up, my mom and dad actually divorced when I was in the first grade. And she met another guy probably 2 years later. 2 years later, I was third grade, who then became a couple years later my stepdad. But he was in the house. They were not married, but he stepped in the role as a father. He was a master carpenter. He built houses, apartments from the ground up. I would go work with him during the summers. I thought that was one of the most funnest things you could do, to see a house being built. And so I learned another side of me that, outside of sports, that I didn't know existed. And so my dad, my biological dad, was a softball player. We grew up in LaGrange, Georgia, which is a small country town. So sports was huge. And so he was a heck of a softball player. And me and my brother, we will always want to, go to the games. And so we ended up playing with our cousins and things like that, because on the weekends we would go out to my grandmother, and that's where, all of us were, from sun up to sundown, we're out in the yard playing. And so they was always older than me. My brother and I are 3 years apart, so I'm the oldest. And so I would be that one that always get picked last, and things like that, and just continue to grow. But through those years, from first grade up until around middle school, I played baseball, played basketball maybe 1 or 2 years of rec league, but baseball was my sport because that's what my dad did.
Yeah.
Football, I was just on the team. I was very frail kid. Light as a feather. And so I was just on the team. I never played. And once I got out of middle school, coming into high school, we hit a snag in the road where my stepdad ended up going to prison. And so there I was, an eighth grade young man, didn't know who he was, no self-confidence. I didn't know the small things about, being a man, how to talk to girls, what to look for. So I just looked to, my friends that was around me and my cousins. And so ventured on into high school where, once again, I started off playing baseball for 2 years. I was on the football team, didn't play basketball, but it was an interesting journey as far as the football deal. Because I was so light, John Revere, who's my position coach, turned me down twice for being on the team, because He's like, son, I just can't put you out there. You're going to get hurt. And my body hadn't developed. So my mom actually worked in the school, and she had to convince him to put me on the team.
Mm.
And I remember he came to me. He said, okay, I talked to your mom, and he's just shaking his head like, I don't know why I'm doing this, but we're going to give you opportunity.
Hmm.
And so I get out there, and, I'm amongst many guys because we were, pretty prominent school in Georgia for his high school. We had 21 professional football players come from my school, our high
Oh,
school.
Wow.
And so I get out there, 10th grade, and I'm rolling, and I'm on the scout team, and never play. Junior year, I develop just a tad bit more. I get taller, but no weight. And out of all the receivers that's after my junior season, I had 365 plays, but I only caught 4 passes. And so I was one where I knew the ones before me was going to get all the balls. They, premier situations. My role was to go out there and make sure they didn't get tired, or to give them a rest. And so we come into my senior year, and like I said, once again, I didn't have any schools recruit me or anything like that. And so Walter Harris, who ended up being a first round draft pick for the Chicago Bears, was my high school teammate. And so he ends up hurting his knee. And we have a brutal schedule. Like the first 4 games, we playing, the top 5 guys in the state.
Mhm.
And so my defensive back coach, Sam Pickett, once again goes to the library, and he literally sits in a chair. And my mom looks at him like, okay, well, coach, everything okay? He said, no, ma'am, it's not okay. He said, I got to play your son. And so she kind of brushed it off and laughed because she saw the resilience in me. She saw, the hard work and dedication and all of that from, sitting on the bench all those years. So she said, coach, just give him opportunity. And so I ended up going in, and in 5 games, I had 10 interceptions.
Wow.
And so,
Let
my
me,
thing, I was so frail, I wasn't going to hit anybody. So tackling wasn't a big thing for me. But the pride coming from LaGrange High School, we were known for hitting.
Yeah.
And so I didn't want to let anybody down, those other 10 that was out there. So I would go and wrap ankles. I wasn't going to run through people and get the ooh-ah shots. I was going to get you down on the ground. But if you throw it, we're talking about a different deal. And so, like I said, ended up spelling those 5 games. And so Walter came back. And needless to say, I didn't see any more defensive back after that. And so I just moved to receiver and became primary receiver position. But we ended up going on and winning the state championship that year. And
Oh, wow.
actually, we were number 1 in the nation, USA Today, number 1 team in the nation. And that was my high school career. And I ended up getting a scholarship to go to Eastern Kentucky.
Dialleo, before we get into the college piece, let me take you back a second. Tell me about your brother and what type of relationship you had, and maybe a role that you played in each other's growth.
Oh, we were. I mean, we are very close. We are very close. One thing that he does, he's always been elite. He's always been very smart. I mean, he was the straight A student. I was the BC student, and so it came easy for him. But I had to work for all of mine. He always played with me and my friends. And so when it came to him and his friends on his level, he was always a step above them, 2 levels ahead of them. And so it was the elite athlete here with him. And then you had the so-called replacement player with me. So even though he's the little brother, I call him the big brother because I'm always looking to him, wanting to be in the spot that he is. He is Grace, but he always kept me in line. He always told me the truth. I mean, the brutal truth when I never wanted to hear it, but he's my number 1 fan.
Mm. What was a favorable childhood memory that you had, Diallo?
Most favorable childhood memory. Ooh. I had quite a few of them. I would say one is just during the summers, just going on trips. Um,
Okay.
like I say, before my stepdad went away, we were always going on trips every summer. So even though I was from a small country town, I mean, we were well versed in the nation. I mean, we went to Chicago, we went to Atlantic City, New York. So we got out and I seen other parts,
Yeah.
um, of the world. So for me, it was the summers,
Awesome.
playing sports and then, traveling.
Yeah. Who inspired and influenced you probably the most in your, growing up years? And then what were some of your dreams and maybe some of your heroes?
It was definitely my mom. It was
Yeah.
definitely my mom. She always worked two jobs, um, night and day, just to provide for us. I was cooking. I was washing clothes in the fifth grade. And so she would just buy the food and put it in there. And, me and my brother we just have at it. But, just seeing her hard work and dedication
Mm,
was something that was beyond my mind. And so she definitely pushed me in ways that she never knew it, because I saw her doing it. So I knew I couldn't quit.
yeah.
Um, to do it as well. And then it was my high school coach, because he always taught me not to give up on myself. He always preached that.
Yeah.
But besides my grandmother, he was the one that pretty much showed me to the Lord.
Yeah.
Um, I would see him reading his Bible in the office. Um, he would quote scripture every now and then after he's getting on our tails, but he was very hard on me, very tough. But I did see a husband. He had a wife. He had three kids at the time, which I babysit. He asked me to babysit him
Wow.
sometimes. So he was the one that was instrumental on the sports side,
Yeah.
um, for me and the dreams that, hey, you can achieve anything you want to if you put your mind to it and you work for it.
Do you have a
You mentioned
memorable?
it a little bit with grandma. What role did your faith play in your home?
Because we were, the arrangements of our household was every other weekend, we would either be going with my dad or staying home. It was split, because we had all the fun, at my grandmother's house. That's where we could pretty much eat anything we want to. We playing all day. In my mom's house, it was very strict. It was very strict. I mean, we barely could go outside. When we did go outside, we couldn't go out of the yard. She was very protective. And so the thing that my grandmother said was, if you're coming out here, you better bring church clothes. And so with me, it wasn't a biggie with me. Hey, my clothes packed, my church clothes in there. Well, my brother, on the other hand, he would often forget stuff. And it became apparent it was on purpose. Sometimes he forgot stuff. But she was something else. We on Saturdays we would go to the church, and she would clean up. She would clean up the church, and I would go with her. And I would walk across the pulpit, and just see how it feels. I was like, it's different walking across and then sitting out in the audience. And she was, you don't belong up there. Don't do that. So, she gave me the discipline and all that, but she always stayed on me. She always prayed for me. So right before I got ready to go to school is when I accepted the Lord into my life.
Mm,
And like I said, she was a major reason, because I knew I couldn't go to Kentucky unguarded.
Hmm.
yeah.
So I wanted to accept something, accept the Lord into my life so that I could be taken care of going away from home.
Mm.
Hmm.
Tell us a little bit. I mean, you obviously said you played DB, you played receiver in high school. What did you play in baseball, by the way?
I was a shortstop. I
Oh,
was
okay.
shortstop. That's the position my dad played. But once I got, like I said, on the high school level, he put me in the high school in the outfield.
Okay.
And so, he framed it that you have a strong arm. And so I played right field. Well, he never really told us what right field meant, but from the player perspective, you put the worst player in right field. And so, and so, and so that's where I was. I was in right field.
Awesome. So in football, obviously you had 10 interceptions that senior year, so that was pretty special. Did you have a specific, play or game that was your favorite high school memory?
Oh my God, yes. We played Valdosta Wildcats. We actually played them twice in my high school career. We played them in the semifinals my sophomore year at home and lost to them. And so we ended up getting back my last year, my senior year, and they come out, and Valdosta was known for having 200 or more players, on the sideline, which was intimidating. And so they came out pregame, and they just kept circling the field. And our coach, like I said, he was a motivator, Coach Revere. And he looked over there and he told us we only had about 45. I think we had 52 guys for the whole season on the roster. Mm-hmm. He looked and said to us, he said they can only put 11 on the field. And it was like a switch that went off inside of us. And so we came out that game. We were playing. I mean, we were getting it. And I remember the play. It was called Tier 3 boot. Okay. And I had a post corner backside. And I came off the line, and it was me. The safety rotated over, and the corner, I took him to the post, and he jumped. And it didn't take me but 2 steps. I came out of that post, and I went to the corner of the end zone, and I knew I had left him on the other side of the world.
Awesome.
And our QB was Rodney Hudson, who was ranked number 1 in the nation that year. And so he threw that ball up there, and I swear that ball hung up there for about 3 hours. It never came down. And so I'm looking at the ball, I'm tracking it, and it's coming down. And so as it's coming down, I see a good friend of mine. His name is Landon Freeman, former football player as well. He was standing in the crowd. Well, he raised his hands up, touchdown. Well, I hadn't caught the ball yet. And so when he raised his hands up, the ball came through, and it went right through my hands. And I'm talking, it was scouts all around the end zone. I mean, Callaway Stadium, that was the most people ever that was in our stadium. We had probably around close to 10,000 in there. And I always say that play there was the biggest separator in my athletic career. Even though it was the biggest failure for me, because I still hear about it today when I go back. I don't care how many pro teams I played on. It goes all the way back to you dropping that ball, the Valdosta game. But we ended up winning 13-7, but it really taught me a lot of lessons. Adversity, pressure, and all of that big time moments. If you're going to be that guy, you got to step up and make the play. And so I retracted, came back the following week, state championship game, had 6 catches for 68 yards, big third down catch. And, we ended up kicking a field goal and won a state championship, and we were number 1 in the nation. So that play there, Valdosta, Wildcats. Yes, sir.
Sometimes failures stick in your memory, but they trigger a lot of great things from there. That's awesome.
Yes. Yeah.
You really set up a good transition. Before we go to your college career, though, did you have a nickname? You mentioned you were frail. Did anyone ever give you a nickname?
Yes. Good friend of mine named Antoine Blackman. We were jokesters. I mean, me and my friend, we were jokesters, and everyone had a nickname. And so he called me Birdman. Because I had a bird chest. I had no definition at all in my chest. No, sir. It was all one level. And that was his thing. He called me Birdman.
That's awesome. So you mentioned college, and you go to Eastern Kentucky. And for a lot of our listeners, I'm not sure they understand the tradition that is at Eastern Kentucky. So I'd like to have you tell us, is there a recruiting story, why you chose there? And then while you're there, what makes EKU football and its history so special, and even tie in the impact of Roy Kidd?
phenomenal program. How I got there was my coach, Coach Revere, John Revere, who actually went to school there as well in the 70s and then went on and played for, he was in camp with the Broncos. And so after we won the state game and everything, I only had 4 schools that was looking at me. It was Jacksonville State, who were D2 at that time, North Alabama, that was D2 as well, and Tuskegee, besides Eastern Kentucky. Those are the only schools. Well, those 3, besides Eastern, wanted me as a defensive back. I didn't want to play DB. I knew I wasn't going to hit anybody, and that just wasn't my mindset. And so Eastern was the only one that allowed me to play receiver. Well, the thing about that is that it's not a factory for wide receivers. It's a factory for running backs. And so I knew, besides the Division I deal, I didn't even look at that. I was able to go and do what I wanted to do for the desires of my heart, and that's play receiver.
Yeah.
And so I was willing to bet on myself. And I went there. Coach Kidd came down, conference champions of the OVC, many years, a couple national championships. Like, it was a really good program, and it was a really good situation. And I felt comfortable because we had a guy named Fred Moulton from LaGrange, linebacker, that was up there. And so when I went up and visited, of course, college is, they took you to the parties and all of that. And I think I committed right there on the spot. There wasn't nothing else to see, anything else to see. But I knew they was the real deal program-wise, and their values aligned with the values of LaGrange High School. Like, it was in direct line. So I knew I was in the best place.
Yeah.
When you look back, Diallo, how did Roy Kidd really impact and influence your playing career, but even now your coaching career? Did he have an impact?
He did. He did, because he was one that, like I say, Coach Roy would believe in you to the end, when you didn't believe in yourself. And like I said, when I got there, I didn't know who I was. And he just stayed on me. And it was one game vividly. We played Morehead State, who was kind of the ones everyone beat up on in the conference. And I dropped 5 balls in the first half. 5 balls in the first half. And he sat me on the bench and told me, do not get up. Do not come in the locker room at halftime. You just sit right here. And it was funny because me and my roommate at the same time, we had to sit on the bench. He played offensive line, who's a Hall of Famer there. And we just sat there and, we just talked. And after the game, he said, so you got to understand, my standards are high, and I understand where you want to go, and I'm trying to help you get there. He said, you just got to trust me and just give your best. And after that, it was like a light switch came on. He would always ask how my mom doing, because the running joke in our family, when he came to visit, him and Jim Chanera, defensive line coach, my brother was actually walking down the hallway when we were sitting in there talking. Well, at that time, Trellis was 6'2", a good 185, and he actually had the weight and the definition. Like, he was a Division I prospect.
Yeah.
And so the conversation shifted very quickly from me to him. And, he wanted him. I'm like, Coach, you're here for me. But he was, I saw a man with his wife, we call her Mama Kidd, and Miss Sue. And, I saw how he treated her, how he talked to her, because that was something that I've never seen before. And that was something that I wanted. I wanted a family. And so I could see those attributes in him. But just his coaching style, like I say, he wasn't a big yeller. He wasn't a real big yeller until he really got upset. But he allowed you to be you. He allowed you to be you, but he demanded perfection. He demanded. And so I just took those qualities and, like I say, just implemented them to my game. So I patterned a lot off of Coach Kidd and his coaching style.
Awesome. What were some of your greatest attributes as a player at that time?
I was a motivator. I was a big time motivator.
How'd you do it, with words, actions, or?
Oh yeah, both. Yeah. From where we came from, if you talked it, you better walk it.
Yeah.
And so I was able to have some success early because I didn't get redshirted my freshman year, so I came in as a true freshman and played.
Yeah.
And so that elevated me into, a different role after that. But definitely motivation. I was the ultimate team player. It wasn't about me. It was about the team.
Yeah.
And so just being that guy that wasn't going to quit, that was going to play every play, that was me. And so I led a group of receivers that we all took on the same mentality that we were going to dominate. We're going to dominate and we're going to have fun, and that's what we did.
Awesome. What were some of your highs and lows of your college career?
Highs is we won, a couple conference championships. It's always good to win.
Yes.
We didn't get a lot of stuff, and so my guys now, they get a lot of gear and all of that. I only remember getting 2 T-shirts my entire 4 years at EKU, but we got 3 rings.
Ooh.
And so the rings, outweigh a T-shirt or sweatsuit any day. And so those were the highs, playing with those guys that we played with. Right now we have 20-something odd guys on the group chat that we communicate every day with.
Awesome.
Just that relationship with those guys. Those were the highs. The lows were, I wish I put up more numbers.
Yeah.
That I put up. And I just didn't take advantage of what Eastern Kentucky had to offer. I was a country boy that was stuck in one world, and that was the football world.
Yeah.
I didn't venture out to see other things. I didn't venture out to meet other students, to form other relationships. I totally missed that part of it, and it was just all football.
Yeah.
And so that's what I would say would be the lows of EKU, because we had fun. That was probably one of the most funnest time periods in my life. I grew a lot, but missing that part was huge for me in my growth.
Now, you talked about before you went off to college that, you accepted the Lord. Describe your spiritual journey from when you accepted him and throughout your college career.
Awesome. It's easy. I went to church probably 8 times in 4 years.
Yeah.
There. When I got to EKU, coming from Georgia, I had a Bible that my grandmother gave me, and I placed it on the shelf, and it never came off. It never came off the shelf until I either moved out at the end of the year or I moved back in. That was it. Never opened it up. After camp was over, to signify that camp was over, we would have teen church.
Yeah.
And so at the chapel. And so I went those 4 times, and then my roommate was a Christian, heavy believer. And so I would get up periodically and go to church with him. And so I know over the course of my time at Eastern, it was no less than 8 or 9 times that I went to church after going almost every weekend growing up.
Yeah. So what were some of your strengths as and growth opportunities as a player that you had throughout those years?
Understanding the discipline factor of the game. I was allowed to kind of freestyle when it came to the football part of it. I didn't understand the discipline part of my position. Now, I understood the discipline of the game because it was beaten into me, from high school and college. So I understood that part, but I did not understand the discipline of my position.
Yeah.
And so I freestyled a lot, and that was me. And so just that developmental piece, as I transitioned into the pros, it kind of hurt me at times. I didn't play any special teams in college. And so when I got to the pro, it was a different world for me. I thought I was just all receiver, and they asked me to run down on kickoff, and I'm like, oh, even returner. I never returned a kick in college.
Wow.
Never returned a kick in college. I played 0 special teams in college.
That's amazing. So you finish up this college career. You have a good career. And now we're going to talk about your pro career. And I mentioned in the intro the word perseverance, and that's the word that jumps out to me when I've, putting together this time with you today, Diallo, and looking at your career. Let's start first of all with, did you even have an NFL draft experience? Is there a story behind that? And then you had an 11-year career. And that sounds like to a lot of people, man, 11-year career, but I'm not sure they'll understand until you tell them what that 11 years looked like. And I want to get inside your heart and mind here and just hear your thoughts, your emotions. But you start out with the Eagles, you're out of football for a year, and then we'll get to NFL Europe. But just tell us that initial time of starting out this pro career.
Okay. Well, Austin asked me a question a few minutes ago about one of the highs of my college career. I met my wife there at EKU, and that was the ultimate experience because I wanted to kind of place that going into the professional part of it because before I got that call to work, well, the call came from Jason Dunn, who was a projected first-round draft pick. And so we were just sitting in the room one day, and he comes by, and we were just in there, having fun, doing what we do. And he said, I want you guys to pray for me, get ready to go have my pro day. And I said, pro day? I said, what do you mean? He said, well, I'm getting ready to go work out for the scouts. I said, scouts on campus? He said, yes, sir. I said, well, you're not leaving me. I said, let me get my cleats. And so I put myself in the workout. It was me, Dunn, Jason Dunn, and Joe Smith. We were the only three. I put myself in the workout. And so I go through this workout, and I'm, running. I ran a 40. I ran a 4.53. I heard him say I ran a 4.53. And so we transitioned to the field. Well, on the field, the L drill, they asked me to run this drill about 7 times. And John Gruden is out there, and he's giving me the business. I love him to death. That's my guy. But he's giving me the business. I mean, I'm like, man, I know I'm not finna go anywhere, with how he's talking to me. And so afterwards, I just kind of go to the side before I get ready to run routes. And John Wooten comes over, and he said, son, do you understand why we made you run that drill over and over? I was like, I wasn't doing it right, listening to what you guys saying. He said, no. He said, as of today, you have one of the fastest times in this drill throughout the United States. He said, and we just couldn't believe it. I was like, well, thank you for making me feel a little better. But then I go and run routes, and I only caught one ball. My man, Greg Couch, he's one of my favorite quarterbacks. Tim Couch's older brother.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Played with me as well. So he's out there throwing the ball, and he's throwing it in the stands. I mean, he's grounding them. And I'm like, man, what are you doing? Do you want me to go? I said, I'll bring you with me. And so I just get through the workout. And so lo and behold, the draft comes up, and, I'm ready. I knew I wasn't going the first day. I knew that. And so I was prepared for the second day. And we get on the second day, and my name wasn't called. And so the guy who was representing me said that, you may have a free agent deal after the draft. So I'm waiting. And so I wait for 3 days and no call. And so Dunn, had gotten drafted second round by the Philadelphia Eagles. And, he's telling me he's getting ready to go to minicamp this weekend. And I'm thinking, man, I hadn't even gotten a call from anybody. And so I continue to wait, no call. So after about 2 weeks, I kind of just threw my hands up and say, you know what? Hey, it's just not going to happen. So at that point, my mind shifted to finishing school and working at Foot Locker. Those were my goals in life at that time. And so,
why Foot Locker?
Sir,
why Foot Locker?
Shoes.
Oh,
I could work and get the shoes that I wanted. That was it. That was my goals in life, was to get tennis shoes. What I wanted. And so classes finish up that Thursday. And so I'm set to get married that Saturday. So I'm literally coming out of a dorm room, getting ready to get married. Never paid a bill before, never, put anything. I'm literally coming from a dorm room and getting ready to go into a house. And so I'm at the tuxedo shop, and my wife called me. And she said, D, she said, some guy called you. I'm like, and now's not the time. I said, these guys in here, they're not showing up for these tuxedo fittings and all. I said, I'm about to lose it. I said, whoever it is, just tell them I call them back later. And she said, it's somebody named John Wooten from the Philadelphia Eagles. I said, don't play. Don't do that. Not right now. I said, I've gotten over that period in my life. I said, you cannot be serious. She said, no, I am dead serious. And we get married tomorrow. I'm like, well, let me call and talk to him, please. And so I called and talked to him, and he said, yes, we know you'll get married tomorrow. We want to bring you up after your honeymoon to work out. And so my mind switched now from getting married to NFL. I know I love you, but I know I'm going to love that a little bit more, especially if I can get in there and get paid. And so we come back, and I go to Philadelphia to indulge in the workout. Well, it's me and two other guys that's working out, and we're all same body types, build. But I'm looking at them, and I'm like, they don't have something I have. I said, I am a route runner. I said, that's right. What I do. I said, so I'm getting ready to come in here and put it down. And lo and behold, I, got in there, and John Gruden isolated me. And so Bobby Horn, who had just come from Ohio State, was the QB. And so he asked me to run a comeback. And so he just said, I want you to, get to 18, put your foot in the ground, come out of it. I'm thinking, okay, now that's not how I run the comeback. So let me show him how I run the comeback. So I added on a little post move to it. So I put my foot in the ground at 14 and posted it at 18, and then snapped out of it and came down. And he said, excuse me, he said, what the hell were they doing at EKU? I said, Coach, I don't know. I said, I'm wondering the same thing, because I never caught over 30 balls at EKU in a season. I never caught over 30, and I was the leading receiver. So he was like, man, it's like they should have been throwing. I was like, Coach, I feel the same way you feel. I said, so let's get this thing done. And so afterwards, I see the one of the analysts come over. They grabbed the other two guys and told them to go take a shower. They grabbed me. They said, we want you to hold on for a little bit. We want to bring you to the office and talk to you. And so they get me over there to the office and say, you had a heck of a workout. We want to bring you to camp. And I was like, okay. I'm like, so really now do I get to go home, or do I have to stay? I just got married. And so I called my wife, and I can only imagine what she was thinking when I told her. I said, right now I'm not coming home, because they was in the middle of the last OTA camp. So we had 2 weeks at that time. And so I'm there, and I go through those 2 weeks, and I did not practice for the first week because I was diagnosed with an irregular heartbeat. So I'm out there carrying around this briefcase that's monitoring my heart, and these guys looking at me like, man, who is this kid right here? And so I only get 1 week. 1 week with the playbook, 1 week with the coach, and then boom, I go back to Lexington. I work out for a couple of weeks, and so now it's time to go to camp. I go to camp, and I'm sitting in there, and once again, like I say, hardly no experience with the playbook. Don't understand who my coach is, who is Gerald Carr, and I'm there, and I'm just watching. I'm seeing Florida State, I'm seeing Syracuse, I'm seeing Georgia Tech, I'm seeing all these Power 5 guys. And now I'm looking at me, and I'm like, I'm Eastern Kentucky. How did I get in this room? That's what I start questioning God about. Like, do I belong in this room? Not really knowing my worth and who I am. And so I literally sat for 2 days at practice and really didn't do anything. And so Philip Riley, who was a 7th-round draft pick, they drafted him. John Gruden kind of just ripped him apart. He ran a shallow cross. He drops the ball. He said, do not drop another ball. And so during the same route again, he drops the ball. And so I'm like, okay. I said, let me go show them what I can do. And so the scout team comes up, and I get in the huddle, and I'm looking at the card, and I just noticed a circle around one of the routes. And so 4 wide sets, I go out, I say, I got this route right here. And lo and behold, they threw the ball to me. I'm like, okay. I said, I think I found something. So I get back into the huddle again. Once again, found a route with the circle around. I said, I'm going here. I'm going here. And so after about 5 or 6 catches, I come back and the rest of the rookies like, man, how in the world are you getting the ball so much? I said, I don't know. I said, I really don't know. But I knew it was the circle around the card. Well, Ricky Waters, Charlie Garner, all of the stars, those guys start now taking notes because I'm making plays. And so they come around, they start talking junk to the defense, amping me up. Ricky ended up taking me to dinner and all these things. So now I'm getting in grace with the veteran guys. Ended up going through the preseason games and, performed a little bit with the little bit of opportunities that I had. And at the end, they ended up keeping me onto the practice squad. And so we go through this season now. My wife was split because she had just took a sign-on bonus for her job in Lexington. So we were apart. And I split an apartment with Derek Witherspoon and off and running. And so the makeup of that team that year it wasn't a lot of married guys. It was a lot of single guys, great guys, phenomenal guys. I love them to death. But for a newly married kid, who didn't know what was going on, it threw me for a big loop. And so we ended up having challenges over the course of the season. And we come to the final game, wild card versus San Fran. We end up losing the game. So we're coming back to Philly. So we get back to Philly. And my wife called me. Well, when she calls me, it was some ladies in the background that was, there for my roommate. And so I didn't think anything about it. I'm just, talking. Well, we've been split for so long, I didn't understand the pressure that had built up in her. So she asked me, she said, what are you doing? And somewhat, I just kind of go off. I kind of just go off the handle. And she said, okay. She said, that's how you're going to act. Do not come back to Kentucky. You need to keep going to Georgia. Well, that's what I wanted to hear. That's what I wanted to hear. And so I made it from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania to LaGrange, Georgia in about 12 hours. About 12 hours. I was rolling. And so I get there to LaGrange and I'm there for a couple of days and we don't talk that much. But I get a call that her grandmother passes. And at this time, my mom gets into the mix now because I'm kind of showing no emotions, no nothing. Like I knew I was out. Didn't have anyone to talk to. I just made the decision, hey, I'm just going to run from this thing. I'm out. Well, she said, you need to go and show respect to her and her family because I didn't raise you that way. And so because mama said it, of course, I got up and I went. Well, on the journey there to Kentucky, I get 3 speeding tickets. 3 speeding tickets. That was, I'm talking, one was, I know the exact amounts. One was $571. One was $343 and one was $242. Yes, took a huge chunk out of the little money I made. And we hadn't got that wild card check yet. And so I get there and I sit in the back of the church. I didn't even sit with them. I sit in the back of the church. And after the service, I go back to the house and, I'm trying to get a couple of my things. And she looks at me. She said, okay, what are you going to do? Are you going to stay or are you going? I said, I'm going to go back to Georgia. And that was it. I go back to Georgia and that was pretty much the end of it right there when I left. And so about a month later, divorce was finalized, papers filed, everything was done. And so now we're getting ready to start off-season program. Yeah. And so I'm up there living in a hotel. I'm working out. Well, I'm killing it right now during the off-season where I'm running the number 3 position. I was the number 3 receiver. And so one day the coaches were meeting. I was going to the business office to pick up my check. And so I passed by the room where they were meeting and they stopped me. They say, DB, say we hear you doing good, man, in the off-season program. You're killing it. Keep doing what you're doing. They say, how's Patricia doing? I'm like, okay. I said, I guess she's doing fine. I said, she's doing fine. And so I keep going to get my check.
Yeah.
I come back. John Gruden is standing outside of the door. Ted Williams, the tight ends coach, is standing outside of the door. And so whenever Trish came to the games, she would sit in the suite with Coach Ted's wife, who really got attached to her. And so they was like, DB said, we don't think we heard you correctly. She said, how's Patricia doing? And I said, Coach, we ain't together anymore. I said, we divorced. I said, she was tripping. And Gruden, first time I ever heard him not say anything, he just shook his head. He looks at me and says, son, I'm sorry, but you just messed up. And he walks back in the meeting, don't say anything. Well, Coach Williams, he stands there for about another second or so and put his hand on my shoulder. He said, I wish you the best. And that's it. And so for the rest of the off-season program, I'm still in the same position. Nothing's changed. We get to training camp. Coach Carr reads off the depth chart. I'm dead last on the depth chart after being the number 3 receiver. And so I asked, I said, Coach, I said, what's going on? He said, that's just where you are. And so something that I put my life and passion into, that game, the training camp before, became the total opposite. My day consisted of stretch, warm-ups, and my day was over. I didn't do anything else. I got very little one-on-one reps. I got 0 team reps. They kept me for all 4 preseason games. I didn't understand that. I wasn't practicing. I wasn't playing in the games, but they kept me for all 4 preseason games. And so my mom called me one day. She said, how you doing? I said, Mom, I'm going to get cut. I said, I know I am. She said, it's just a matter of time. And so that next week, they ended up calling me into the office. And it was a GM. Once again, it was Gruden. It was Coach Carr and Ted Williams. So all of these guys were in the room as they were releasing me. And before they, they told me that we were going to release you. After that, they said, do you know why? And I was like, I have no clue. Well, Gruden says, why did we sign you? And I'm like, well, the other 2 guys I worked out with, I was hands down better than those guys. I said, I know I was. He said, son, you don't have a clue. He said, the only reason we signed you, he said, all 3 of you guys were pretty much on the same level. The thing that separated you was that you were married. And that was a blow to me. I was like, oh my God. I'm like, really? He said, yeah, you were married. So we was going to take a chance on a younger guy that was married versus a younger guy that was single. And they got up and walked out. Those were the last words that I spoke to them at that time. And so I go back to LaGrange. I'm working, I'm partying. I use up all my little money that I have. And so now it's time for me to I have to make a decision what I'm going to do. When my mom comes by my room one day, she says, it's time for you to get up and get a job. I'm like, yeah, I got to. And so I get up one day, that Monday, get up, actually go find a job. I was out all day. Okay. Let me backtrack. The day before that, Sunday, I went to church with my best friend and his mom. And I'm in a church. It's about probably 14 people in the whole church. I sat in the back. The message that the pastor preached, I felt it was directly talking to me. Like I was the only one in the church. And so I kind of, had it imprinted in my brain like, hey, man, it's time to do something. You're in a tough spot, but really didn't accept it yet. And so I go out the next day, find a job. I come back in. It was 6:38 on the wall. We got a clock on our wall as soon as you come in the door. 6:38, the phone rings. And so it's my agent. And he said, man, I've been trying to call you all day. He said, have the St. Louis Rams called you? And so I go to the caller ID, and I'm scrolling through the ID. It's 0 calls. I dropped the phone right there because at that moment, God spoke to me and told me, if you just give me a little bit of time and what I'm looking for, I will give you what you want. And so I told my agent, I was like, I said, I don't have any calls. He's like, well, they want to bring you up and they want to work you out. How fast can you get to the airport? Said, plane's leaving at 9:45. I said, I can get there in 38 minutes, and it's a 45-minute ride. I said, I will make the flight. And so I get there, get on the flight, and so I get to the field. I'm working. It was just me and a defensive lineman. And so I warm up, and now I see Dick Vermeil. He's walking through the tunnel in the stadium, and he holds up one finger. And so they say, run a go route. I run a go route, and I drop the ball. He proceeds to continue to come. He holds up one more finger. They say, we want you to do that again. I run another go route. I drop the ball. He holds up his hand, holds up 5 fingers. He then proceeds to walk out to me. He said, Diallo. He called my name right. I'm like, okay, he really knows me. He said, I want to thank you for coming. He said, but I also want to thank you for wasting my time. He said, I appreciate it. He said, I wish you luck. And he walks off. And I'm standing there crushed, but I'm standing there strong as well. Because now I understand what the Lord had just said to me. I knew I wasn't ready for that workout. I wasn't doing anything, but partying. And so I get on the plane, and it was probably one of the most beautiful skies I've ever seen. It was nice, it was calm, and I just heard the Lord speak, says, you are ready now. He says, you are ready now. Now is the time. And so when I got back home, I'm working in a factory. I'm working 60 hours a week. I get my Bible, and I literally read till I fall asleep every night.
Wow.
I work, come home, I read my Bible till I fall asleep. And so after about 2 months goes by, I get a call from my best friend. And he says, D, just want to call and check on you. He said, I know you've been going through a lot. He said, but I also want to let you know we had a visitor this weekend. And I'm like, I said, okay, who was that? He said, it was your ex-wife. I was like, okay. I said, how she look, man? He's like, man, she was looking good. I'm like, well, okay. I need you to put me back in there. And he said, D, he said, can't do it. And I almost got upset, but then I stopped myself and said, okay, whatever mess you got yourself into, he didn't. So you have to fix it. And so he said, well, what I will do, and I know I'm gonna get blessed out, he said, I am gonna give you a number. And so he gives me a phone number. I call her the next day. She didn't pick up, so I leave a message stating that I need to, just talk to you. I want to, just air some things out and, about me. And so we move on, and that was it. And she called back 2 weeks later, said she's going to be in LaGrange, and in Atlanta for a conference that we come up and talk. And so she got to Atlanta, came up, we talked, and real good talk. And she said, well, if you think you're serious about getting back in, there's absolutely nothing you can say. You won't have to show me. And she ended up giving me her address. And so that's when the rat race began. I'm still working 60 hours a week. She's living in Paducah, Kentucky, which is 7.5 hours from LaGrange.
Ooh.
When I got off that Friday, I would drive 7.5 hours to see her for about 4 hours on Saturday, got back up, drove back home, and went to work. I did that for about 4 months straight.
Wow.
And she knew I was serious from that point. She knew I was serious. And so ended up getting a call from the Rhein Fire, Mike Jones. I was working, and he said, you want to play some more football? And I'm like, yes, I got to get out of this plant. And so that's how our journey really began. When you're talking about as a professional, is I got my wife back, and now I get to in turn go back and play some more football.
Wow. That's an amazing story, Diallo. So you end up going to the Rhein Fire. Obviously, Mike Jones, who's really good friends with my dad and Mike are over in NFL Europe. Tell us, what your experience was like for the Rhein Fire. How'd you grow, and and how did it help your career moving forward at that time?
Ooh, great question there, right, Austin, because I absolutely hated it my first year because I thought I was too good to be over there.
Yeah,
You know, when the NFL took it over, it transitioned from the World League.
yeah,
It was stated amongst players that that was the league where it kills your career. You don't go over there,
yeah.
and so um, country boy going to a whole nother country. I had no aspirations of going out of the country. Now, my wife had dreams because she would always talk about, I want to go to another country. I'm like, why? For what? I can take you to the country, but not another country. Um, but I end up going over, and all I ate was McDonald's and Chinese food every day. Never really came out of my room. And, it was from a professional standpoint, that's when I was challenged to look at the details of the game.
Hmm.
Coach Jones had me reading defensive fronts. I don't know why. I said, I'm never going to look at a defensive front. He said, all align together. So I had to become a student of the game. And in turn, his partner in crime is challenging me as a man.
Hmm.
And I've never really had a lot of people to challenge me as a man. So I was heavily conflicted. I'm on fire for the Lord,
Hmm.
but it hasn't matched up with the career because now I'm putting the two together.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it was something that he sensed or what, but he always challenged me to live by that word in every area.
Hmm.
And so, I had guys tugging on me, go here, go there. I wouldn't go anywhere. It was just to practice, play, and I'm back in my room. And so we ended up, in my mind, I didn't have a breakout game until the World Bowl. That's when I kind of just relaxed, let loose, and came and went and played. And ended up having 2 touchdowns in the game. We won it. It was a heck of a time. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
But it was like a button was pushed, like, okay, now you're ready to go. Well, had to come back over there the following year. And that's when I went in and I wasn't playing.
Yeah.
I was not playing around. So I got to get from over here and I ended up playing, having a really good season. And that's when the Carolina Panthers came and they signed me. So the second year, I opened up my heart and mind to the place where I was. My wife came over and we actually remarried the same day we did when we got married in college. And so it was right there in the hotel from the chaplain and everything. So Dialleo Burks was ready to go. He's ready to go.
If that isn't a story of restoration, I don't know what one is. That's a marriage restoration, a career restoration, a restoration between you and Papa. I mean, that is amazing.
Absolutely.
Wow. Well, again, your pro career, people don't even know, but NFL Europe, XFL, arena football, you about hit every league you can hit.
Yes. Yeah.
So, here's my question. How did your faith help you navigate this 11-year journey? And I'm just going to read these words because it jumped out to me as I was preparing for you. And this will, I'm sure, resonate in your heart. But these are the words and experiences you had in those 11 years. Undrafted, released, re-signed, inactive, active, released, drafted, signed, released, practice squad, active, signed, released, re-signed, released, signed, injured, reserve, signed, traded, signed, and availability list. So how did your faith help you navigate that up and down roller coaster, Dialleo?
Well, I knew he had a plan for my life. Everything that I had went through prior was a buildup, and I went back to my mom experience. Is that I never saw her quit.
Yeah.
I never seen her quit. Working 2 jobs, providing, never saw her quit. And so my thing was, as a professional, I want to be the best at what I do.
Yeah.
And so I don't care where I have to go to. I don't care what I have to do. I'm going to prove that I am the best.
Yeah.
And so that journey there was one of a kind. It was a lot, but I knew as long as I kept getting the opportunities, I was going to try to make the best of it. Wherever I was, whether the XFL, I was one of the top receivers in that league. The AFL, I was one of the top receivers in that league. So as long as he kept giving me these opportunities, I was going to show that I was the best. And I did not understand what that meant at that time, but I do now, is that everywhere you go, just be phenomenal where you are. And so when you're talking about the league is one of a kind. It's one of the best ones, the premier deal. But when you're talking about being the ultimate professional, it's just being phenomenal where you are.
Wow.
And so wherever I was placed in that situation, I knew it was a growing point. I knew that the Lord was trying to do something in my life and show me something. So I just yielded to the Spirit, to His grace, and just tried to be the best that I could be wherever I was, and that was to help change lives. I knew I was on assignment. I was on assignment.
What a kingdom statement, Dad. Just, learning how to be where you are and to use your gifts and abilities that He's given you to the best of your abilities. And you have great moments. I mean, the fact that you have opportunities in the league is, there's so many people that don't even have that opportunity. And you've had great moments. And just to think that, God has taken your perspective to a spot where you could really be where your feet are. I mean, that's not easy to do. No matter who you are or what you're accomplishing, you're constantly thinking about the future. That's really wise.
Yeah. It helped me, like I say, from a confidence standpoint, because it's funny how things, really come to pass. I was talking to a couple of my players and recruits just a week ago.
Yeah.
And a lot of people know that I played in the league, but I don't boast it that I played in the league unless I have to pull the card.
Yeah.
And so I was telling them, I said, you got to understand that I was a professional. I got paid to play this game.
Yeah.
And during my time, I was one of the best football players on the planet. I said, just think about that.
Yeah.
Not just in Florida, but on the entire planet. I was one of the best football players. I said, and I can say that. And you're talking about coming from a place where I didn't play but 2 years of high school football. I went to Eastern Kentucky. I was never ranked as one of the premier receivers in the whole nation, but then make it to go be one of the top football players on the planet. It's something different.
Oh.
It was something different about me, and the plan for my life was totally different. And so that's what, prepares my mind that whichever situation I'm in, I go back to that experience. I love football.
Yeah.
I love football. I love how I was challenged. I love what I lost. I love what I gained. Like, it is me. They say football is me because of what it has taught me, what it has brought me, and where it's taken me to. It's taken me to another level with my family. It's taken me another level, with the people that I'm around. The other night we had 23 players that accepted the Lord.
Oh,
and
wow.
This was just after a talk. And the first time I've ever done this, extended the invitation to be saved. In 3 years that I've been here at Warner University, that was the first time I did it. And 23 people came.
Wow.
Wow. Well, let's transition to your coaching career. You had a heck of a playing career. How did your playing career help prepare you to coach, Dialleo?
I want to say Kevin Swain kind of put it in my head, and we played together at the Orlando Rage, and so we're watching film one day, and I guess he had enough, and it's always about getting it right, getting the concept right, and so in my mind, I was just giving him some pointers on how to run the route, and he said, "Man, you need to be a coach." He said, "Because you always coaching us, always coaching me." He said, "I get paid too." And I said, "You're exactly right." I said, "But you need to run this route like this, though." So we kidded and, phenomenal guy, great guy. But it kind of implanted a seed in my head like, okay, he may be on to something because the way that we have to study the game and dissect the game, I said, I can teach this easy,
Yeah.
because I've been doing it everywhere I've been, to the guys. And so that opportunity there, kind of shifted over. It's like, okay, I'm gonna go for this because I really didn't see myself doing anything else outside of football.
Yeah.
So I knew I wanted to do something inside of football. So it birthed from, like I said, a conversation just in the film room. And once I knew I was getting ready to transition out of the game from playing, that's when it kind of birthed and came forth at LaGrange College. LaGrange College was my first stint.
What was your biggest adjustment going from a player to a coach?
The timing factor, the timing and just understanding the schedule of a coach, the details of being a coach. I had to learn that because my first couple of years, like I said, I coached 3 years at LaGrange College. I was the head coach of my high school, LaGrange High School, for 3 years. And then I transitioned to internships and now at Warner University. And so when I first started, I was coaching from a mindset of a player, not a coach, which meant, Austin, I expect for you to do certain things because you told me this is what you wanted.
Yeah.
Not understanding that I have to get you to that point of what you want. If you tell me, oh, I'm expecting for you to put out this much, this much, this much, you got to do this, do this, do this. And when you don't do it, now we have a problem.
Yeah.
And so that was me early on as a coach, where now I understand is you tell me your end goal. Now, as a coach, I got to help you get to that point as a coach. And so that's the difference, that how I see it now compared to how I messed it up in the beginning.
Diallo, you mentioned you were in high school, college, you had a couple of the pro internships. Now you're the head football coach at Warner University. If someone had you sitting there alone and they said, Diallo, why do you coach? What would your answer be?
Change lives.
Mm.
Change lives. In my mind, it's not about football. When I get these football players in, they've been playing football since they was 4, 5 years old. Some of them, they only played for 2 years. Football is the easy part. It's the things that surrounds football, I think, really complicate things. Is understanding how to manage your time, understanding that you have other gifts and talent that you're blessed with, that you can make it, because everyone's not going to the pros. And so just wanted to make them be the best that they can be, all around in every area of their life. That's what I coach. I coach life.
Yeah. Wow.
By the way of football.
Yeah.
Well said.
Well said. How have you grown as a head coach?
Understanding what the job really is. Because I'm so engulfed in the game and I actually coach a position. I coach the wide receivers, but I have to understand there's a line there that as a head coach, you are a manager of the program. I didn't understand the management part of it, of the program. I understood the field part of it.
Yeah.
And so the other things that surrounded the field, I had to learn and grow from, to understand that I am an empower of men, not just players, but the coaches as well. And, I'm constantly trying to find strategies to see how to get the best out of them, because a lot of them frame their mindsets just like the players frame their mindset. Well, I say I want to do this. As a coach, I say I want to do this, but now when your challenge is like, okay, do you really want to do this?
Right.
To this level. And so it's been very challenging for me, but through the grace of God, I've had mentors to help me out, especially this program here that you guys are running. We went through a full year last year of with coaching our coaches, and it was a phenomenal help. But just being able to be a leader of men and coaching the coaches is what head coaches is all about. And the players are a byproduct of their coaches and head coach. So I got to make sure they're right.
Well said.
Well, let's jump to family. You've already talked a little bit about your beautiful wife, Patricia. But tell us about how things are today, and tell us about your children.
Things with Patricia are I mean, they're on a whole nother level now because she's always followed me as a player. She's been there every step of the way. When I transitioned to the coaching side of it, we kind of hit a snag. When I say snag, it was just a different feel because she understood the program as a player, but she did not understand the program as a coach.
Mm.
And I didn't do a good job of helping her transition as well. I didn't think she had the transition in my mind. I thought she just had to follow, but growth and maturing me understood that, hey, no, you got to bring her along with you as well.
Mm.
And so I welcomed her onto a road trip with us one time last year, one game, and I sat her in her own seat across from me. She got upset, wondering, why can't I sit with you? I said, you'll find out in about 30 minutes as to why you can't sit here in this little seat with me because we got 3.5 more hours to go on the bus. So she went through that experience, and afterwards she said, well, I won't let you know I love you, but I will never get on another bus again unless it's a national championship game. But she understands now what it takes to be a coach's wife.
Mm.
And, it's not just my program. I want her involved in the program as well. It's her program as well, because the values and morals that we're teaching is family oriented. It's all family. And so I'm trying to teach these young guys, this is how you treat your wife.
Yeah.
Well, if they don't never see me and my wife together, and well, what am I preaching?
Right.
If they don't see me and my kids together, what are we preaching? So
Wow.
I told her, I said, I want you close to me. And she's accepted the invitation. She's going to lead the other wives and things and Bible study. And so it's fun. It's phenomenal with her. Like, I feel like I'm 20, 24, 25 again. And, we want to keep that freshness in the relationship, communicating. Like I said, she has been my number one supporter, and she's it. She's all that it is for me. My kids, my oldest one is 25, Kennedy, that coach knew that we had my second year over there in Europe. And so she is actually getting ready to transition back now here to be our SID at Warner.
Really?
Oh, awesome.
She just got the job on Friday. Yep.
Congratulations.
Be our SID. Coming back from Atlanta. DJ, our oldest son, who is 22, is at Illinois State, living his best life. He's getting ready to go try out for the basketball team, and he loves being a student up there, Midwest, growing as a phenomenal young man. And then Peyton, our youngest daughter, is 19. She's at Palm Beach, Atlantic, down here, and of course, she's very different than all the other three. She really loves life down there in West Palm Beach. So, and then Cam, who's our 13-year-old, is literally with me every single day because he goes to school right across the street from the college. So when he comes from the college, he's over there. And now that he's older, he's actually putting on a helmet now. He's getting out there. He's actually taking reps with the guys. So that's and he's serious about it too, because he's the first one in the line. I'm like, Cam, no, you got to get in the back of the line. I need these guys in front of the line.
Oh, that's special. Something you'll never forget.
Oh man, those are my kids, and it's great to see them. I did an exercise, thanks to Coach, talking about the mask. And Coach, I'm gonna tell you, my wife trying to get me to take it down in my office. I told her I would never take it down. Picture that I made, and it's even though Coach had the concept, my kids filled it in.
Wow.
I didn't want to think about me. I wanted to see, okay, how do my kids see me? Because those are the ones that's going to tell me the real factor of who Daddy is. And I told them, I said, don't hold back. Don't hold back. And so everything that they said, I put on that picture, and I just placed it in my office because I see that's how they see me.
Mm.
The mask. Yeah,
Mm.
it's
Wow.
good.
That's awesome.
Well, let's jump to legacy. This is our final section here, and we'll get you going. I appreciate all the time you're spending. And looking back, Diallo, knowing what you know now, would you have done anything differently in your career or personal life?
Personal life, well, both areas definitely yes. For one, I would have leaned on the Lord a whole lot more versus me.
Mm.
I messed a lot of stuff up with my relationship. Seek advice. If I had to do it again, I would have, sought after advice from older guys who had been there. I kind of just tried to figure it out myself, and so just have an accountability partner. Because some of it you just didn't want to hear. Like I said, I really didn't have a lot of confidence anyway. And so for somebody else to come and tell me that you're not doing this right or you need to give it, I wasn't in a place to really listen and take it. And so, like I said, if we had to go back, I would definitely accept that that role. Playing or details, just being more detailed. Now I understood that I did leave a lot on the table. Just understanding what a professional is. What does that mean? That means coming in early, leaving late. When you have to, making sure that the job is done. I took the job for granted because I was all about the field.
Yeah.
I wasn't about the thing that surrounded the field. I could go stay out, half the night, and it was like a burst of energy for me to get to that facility and get ready to go to practice. The meetings, for some, I was a smart guy. I understood the coverages and but let's go practice.
Yeah.
Let's go practice so we can perform. And so I would just, really rely on being more detailed as a professional if I had to go back as a player.
Thank you.
Over all your experiences, what wisdom do you have for the players, coaches of this generation?
For the players, I would definitely let them know that for one, you only get one body in life. You only get one physical body. Make sure you take care of your body. I'm seeing guys now that's broken down, based on how they live, what they did in earlier years. So, that's a big thing because, like I say, you have to be here for your family. You have to be here for your family and your kids that's relying on you and things. So I would say, definitely take care of your body. Two is do what you love.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of guys I see are doing this for other people and not themselves.
Yeah.
Do this because this is what you want to do. That fulfillment that you may get, from the game, make sure that it's really worth it, and really seek the other gifts that God has for you, that He's placed in you. Let's look at those other gifts. Because every recruit that I talked to this year, the question that I ask them, take football away from you. Who are you?
Mm-hmm.
What would you do?
Mm-hmm.
Over 90% of them didn't know. They never had a coach to ask them, what else are you good at? I never had a coach to really ask me, what are you good at outside of football?
Yeah.
And so now I'm just thinking, I'm a football player. That's just what I am. So once football is taken away, now guess what? I'm lost because I don't know what else I can do. And so I would say I would challenge them to find, that their passion in other areas outside of the game. The same passion that they have for football. What else give them that fulfillment?
Wow.
Great question. That's a great question. With all you've accomplished, what do you value and treasure the most, Diallo?
My relationship with the Lord, and my family, man, it's amazing just how He's opened doors, how He has, taught me and grown me. Our family, just where we are, blessing after blessing. Because, you look at, like I said, what you want. I wanted the model family, but I didn't come from a model family, and so to see that I have a wife. I have kids. We've all been under the same roof. You know, that's a blessing for me, and that's what I really cherish the most. That what was in my heart, you know, in LaGrange, Georgia, and that was in my mind, God has brought it to the table.
Wow.
He's brought it to the forefront.
Amen. Amen.
So I thank him for that. I thank him for that. I will say for the coaches, know who you are. Know who you are as a coach, and understand that you are. What's the word I'm looking for? You have other people's lives in your hands. You have to value that you have other people's lives in your hands. So you have to be careful what you say, because it can alter lives. You got to be careful how you treat them, because it can alter lives. And I don't want to be responsible for somebody that I know that went the other way, because now I'm going to say, what role did I have in that? What role did I have in that? Because I'm responsible for every kid under my roof. Yeah. And that's it. Just know that every player that a coach is responsible for, you are responsible for. And that's in every fashion, not just on the field. I realized that year one, that some things you just cannot do. I don't care what the system says or what. And stick to your integrity as a man. Whatever your integrity is, or you stand on it. Just because, you know, it's allowed in some places, don't allow that player to do that just to keep it. That's not right. And so I'll say, for me, I know I'm big on it. Hey, just certain things don't bring around me. If I got to lose you, I'll lose you, but I'm not going to allow it to happen just because you can run behind a football. That's not good. So,
well said.
Yeah. Great wisdom. What has been the most significant moment in your coaching career and spiritual journey?
Spiritual journey is seeing these guys come to Christ.
Yeah.
When those guys stood up the other night, I mean, it wasn't a service where a heavy word was preached. It was a journey from one of my college teammates that came in with me.
Yeah.
And he was just sharing some of his story. And so to just, you know, set those parameters in an atmosphere where you can do that and it show up, I'm like, I was like, wow. I went back to my office. I just sat there. I'm like, man, what just happened? Like, really, what did I say? Because our team chaplain, I talked to him yesterday. He was like, well, who preached? I said, did nobody preach? I said, I just spoke. And he just turned and looked. He said, I told you. I was like, all I did was extend the invitation. I said, that was it. But to see that part, you never know how people are feeling. You never know what they're truly going through. And so I have to be more intentional, with that piece of it, because that's what we're selling. We're selling Jesus here, because we can do it without fault here. We can do it. So I got to maximize that. I got to maximize that, just like maximizing that meeting time, or that practice time. I have to maximize that as well. The other part was I just see just being fulfilled, every day. This is not work for me. I enjoy, I look forward, I pop up in the morning, ready to hit the office, knowing that I'm getting ready to go through some type of adverse. I know it's coming. Cell phone on full, cell phone, on E when I leave the door. So it's just that fulfillment, knowing that I'm helping changing lives. That's what's, really satisfying to me as a coach, and just seeing what I'm building and what the other guys that support me help building as well, and just see it, we win it.
Yeah,
exactly.
Awesome. And with the
Dialleo, when someone encounters Dialleo Burks, what do you want them to experience, and how would you want to be remembered?
For one, they're gonna get a smile. That's it. You're gonna get a smile when we talk. You're gonna get some encouragement. You're gonna understand that I'm gonna be 100% real with you, because it's about you. and
Amen.
that value, that consistency. You're gonna get consistency when you encounter me. You're gonna get loyalty. My wife tells me all the time. She says, "There's a lot that I really love about you, but there's one thing that I really don't like is that your wife's supposed to know everything." And when some people tell me stuff, they say, "Hey, I just want it just stay between us." It's gonna stay between us. And now when we're in a conversation with my wife is with, she said, "Did you know about it?" "Yeah, I knew about it, but they told me not to say anything, so I'm not gonna say anything." So it's just that realness, like saying, just understanding that I'm a cheerleader of everyone. I'm a cheerleader of everyone. Whatever it is you want to do, I get behind you. I get behind you, and I'm rooting for you to win. It's about the team. It's not about the individual. What I want them to remember is that I'm genuine. Everything about me is genuine. I have no agenda. I was taught early, with the money that I lost and all of that, you can't. People don't put money in, and people don't take it out. It's all on me, whether it comes in or goes out. So the other things I just really don't worry about, but just remember that coach is genuine, and I want to see you win. I want the best for you.
Well, the last thing we do is we call it final words, and we want to give you a chance. Maybe there's something we didn't ask or something that came on your heart as we were talking, or just something you want to say to our listeners, Diallo. And when you're finished, Austin will have his final words to you, and I will do the same and close us.
Well, Coach, I just want to say, I just remember walking in that stadium, in Dusseldorf. Every day we eating those peanut butter and jelly sandwiches and drinking Cokes and, going in your meetings. And I think you only went off one time on us, and that kind of changed the trajectory of the team. But just really and truly what you did for me as a man is I keep it close to my heart, because for one, you don't look like me. Two, the personality is like we're on two opposite ends of the table. You can be misread. But for you to do what you did for me in my life, to make sure that I was living up to the word that I claim to believe in, to be the man that I claim I believe in, and that consistency. It was 98. It was 1998, 99. And after that, we were cut for, periodically, we would show back up, but you were always there. You was always there in some capacity. And so I just want to thank you. I want to thank you because I really, like I say, look up to you and your family. Austin running around, getting into everything and all of that. But you have been one of the models that I have patterned my life after. So I just want to let you know that I love you and I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Well, for me, Diallo, obviously you hold a special part. For me, people say, "What's the best part of your life?" I say, the years we went over to Europe, and then that '98 season. You were a part of that team, and I remember, just cheering you guys on. And I can remember in '98 we played the Barcelona Dragons, and I think we were 7-0, and we lose that game, and I'm bawling on the sideline just because I was so engaged with what we were doing. And I was so excited, and we ended up winning the World Bowl. So obviously there's a special piece just from memories there, but just hearing your heart and, getting to get back in touch over the, the last year or so. It's just, I'm thankful for who you are. And, I listen to your story and I hear perseverance is the first thing, from Birdman to, making the pros, and, to all, places where you didn't throw the ball that much and you just kept chipping away. And, and your, just the restoration, like my dad said in the middle of the story of, you went after, your dream in football, and obviously that brought it hurt your relationship with your wife at the time. but just how Papa shows up and brings healing in situations that seem hopeless, and how he
Yeah.
got your attention after getting cut from the Eagles. And like you said, it's that we all do it. You know, I've done it myself. It's just you put your identity in what you do in football, and
Mm-hmm.
it's so easy to do. And I think just your courage and your honesty and your transparency to just remind others that you're not the only one that thinks that way. We all struggle with this, and when we take a second to listen to God and just he shows up, and it's just been encouraging to see how God has showed up in your life and has brought you your wife back, a beautiful family. I look at you as having a great career. Just from my perspective, I watched you with the Orlando Rage, and you know, I just, you're always one of my dad's best players he's coached. For me, I'm just thankful for the opportunity and the ability to sit and listen to your story. And I know, the other thing that God wanted me to, or was putting on my heart when you were talking about those 23 people, and you said, well, all we did was talk, we didn't preach. But what God said in my spirit was, He said, but you live it on a day-to-day basis. It prepared their heart to listen. And so for me, I think that's our job as coaches and friends as we're walking through this coaching journey, because we're all going to be struggling against time. We're all going to be struggling against what people view of us. We're all going to be struggling against trying to get the best out of the people around us, and we get frustrated, and we're human. But we come alongside of each other and we just remind each other, this is a high calling. We're in front of a bunch of eyeballs, and they're looking at everything we do. They're looking. I loved what you talked about your family, because a lot of times you just forget that, like, your college coach modeled it, but then also, like you said, if they never see you around your wife or your kids, or interacting, everything you're saying doesn't mean anything until they see it. And I just think there was so much wisdom in what you've talked about, and I'm just encouraged by you and your life, and I just look forward to see what Papa does moving forward. So thank you for sharing.
Sir, thank you, Austin. Love you.
Love you
you,
too.
brother.
There's a lot of things I could say, and as Austin was talking, I just was trying to collect my thoughts. First of all, thank you for your kind words. You don't know how much they mean to me, Diallo. And I also spoke in the introductory, which you and I will always smile. And it's one of the best pictures I have in my mind, is when you had that unbelievable spike in the end zone at the World Bowl. I'll never forget that. But the three words that came to my mind, and originally I was thinking genuine and transparent, and Austin hit on both of those. But the three that spoke to me, Diallo, about you was light, life, and love. And those are the pictures of the Spirit within Christ and in us. And when I think of light, I want to encourage you, as an outsider looking at your life, you are a beacon of light to those you encounter daily. When I think of life, I really believe, hearing your story today, which I didn't even know half of the things, you have lived your life well to this point. Yeah. And I really believe that you will be even more amazed at what Papa has in store for your life ahead. And the third is, you're a picture of love. I see you love your wife. I see you love your children. You love your staff, and you love your players. And most of all, you love Papa, because he loves you. And so when I think of Dialleo Burks, I think of light, life, and love. And I am just grateful that Austin and I, not in this podcast, but outside of this, we have had the opportunity to reconnect. And I look for the many, many more years together in our relationship moving forward. So with that said, Austin and I just want to once again thank you for sharing your story with our listeners at Awaken Kingdom Culture, where hearts and minds come alive, one story at a time.